The Three Threads. In the shadow of a great forgotten window still lived three spiders. Silva, who spun with a quiet, deliberate grace. Kyle, whose webs were frantic, beautiful, and full of dark, swirling patterns. And Pip, the smallest, who spun only tiny, shimmering threads that caught the light like dewdrops. They were friends, bound by the sticky silk of their shared existence. Their world was simple, a dance of dust motes in sunbeam, the gentle hum of a bumblebee, the patient rhythm of their own spinning. Silva would anchor their shared web with a sturdy oak frame, her work a foundation of strength. Kale would fill the spaces between the intricate, dizzying spirals, lost in the geometry of his own creation. And Pip would weave her tiny, perfect webs in the corners, humming a silent, tuneless song to herself. One day, a terrible chill fell upon the room. The sunbeam vanished, and the air grew heavy and still. A deep, resonant thump echoed from beyond the wall, a sound so profound that it made the very dust shiver. It was the sound of a piece of great house settling, a final weary sigh of the old structure. The three spiders clung to their web, their 8 legs trembling. "The world is ending," Kale whispered, his usually vibrant patterns sagging. "The light is gone," Pip squeaked, her tiny voice full of sorrow, too large for her body. "It will never come back." Silva said nothing. She simply began to spin, not a web for catching flies, but a single, strong, unbroken thread. She anchored it to the home and sent it out into the oppressive darkness, a line of pure, unwavering intention. Kale, seeing her purpose, joined in, his frantic energy now focused on reinforcing her line, weaving a safety rope into the void. Pip, her small heart brave, added her shimmering threads, making a dark cable glitter like a starlit path. They didn't know where the thread led. They only knew that they had to spin it together. They pulled with all their might, not against the darkness, but through it. And as they pulled, they felt the faint warmth on the other end. The sunbeam hadn't vanished, it had merely moved. It was now shining through a crack in the floorboards, a sliver of gold they had never known existed. Exhausted, they collapsed into a new, smaller web woven into the newfound light. The world was still old. The house was still tired, and the great thump could happen at any moment. But they had faced the dark together and found a new sun. Their threads were tangled, their limbs ached. But in the warm, dusty light, they were safe. For now, that was enough. The Whispering Web. Kale's webs were his masterpieces, but they were also his prison. Lately, he had been hearing whispers in the silky spun. Not the friendly hum of the house or the buzz of a fly, but a sibilant, sacred voice that told him his patterns were wrong, that the angles were off, that the darkness between the threads were watching him. He would spin and unspin the same strand for hours. A frantic, obsessive dance that left him exhausted and terrified. Silva and Pip watched from a distance, their friend a solitary figure in the vast, chaotic web he was own making. "He's listening to the shadows," Pip said, her tiny eye wide with worry. One evening, as Kale was battling a particularly nasty whisper that insisted a single crucial strand was a lie, Silva approached. She didn't try to talk to him. She knew the whispers were louder than any voice of reason. Instead, she began to spin alongside him. She didn't copy his frantic patterns, but wove a simple, strong, radial line next to his. The whisper hissed at her, but she ignored it. Her focus was absolute. Pip joined in, waving her delicate, shimmering filigree over Silva's strong line. Then over one Kale's tangled spirals. The two of them worked in silence. They're spinning a gentle, persistent rhythm against the chaos of Kale's fear. They weren't fixing his web, they were weaving their own piece into it. Kale, amidst his turmoil, felt the change. The frantic energy in his legs began to slow. The whispers didn't stop, but they grew softer, drowned out by the quiet, steady tap, 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 tap of his friend's work. He looked at the strand Silva made, so solid, so real. He looked at the delicate beauty of Pip and her strand, so light, so hopeful. He took a deep, shuddering breath and began to spin again, but this time, he followed the line Silva had laid. His pattern was still complex, still uniquely his, but it was no longer at war with itself. The web they had built together was strange and hybrid, but it held. In its center, the three of them rested, the quiet hum of their shared creation as a shield against the whispers of the dark. The shadow in the corner. The three spiders had a perfect life in their sunbeam. Their web was strong, their bellies were full, and their friendship was a comfortable, woven thing. But in the far corner of the ceiling, where the light never reached, lived a shadow. It was a vast, formless thing, and it seemed to be getting bigger. It didn't make a sound, but its presence was a constant, cold pressure on the small, warm world of the spiders. Silva felt it as a weariness in her legs, a hesitation before she began to spin. Gale see it as a flaw in the world's geometry, a wrongness that threw all of his beautiful patterns into disarray. Pip simply stopped singing. The joy had been leached from the air. They stopped talking about it. They focused harder on their spinning, on catching flies, on pretending the warm circle of light was the whole world. But the shadow grew. It crept closer, inch by silent inch, consuming the dust motes, chilling the air. Finally, one day, Pip Pip could bear it no more. "We have to look at it," she said, her voice barely a squeak. They were terrified. To look at the shadow was to acknowledge it, but together they slowly turned their many eyes towards the darkness. It was just a corner, a damp, dusty, forgotten corner of the ceiling, and in it, not a monster, but a tattered, old cobweb. It was huge and abandoned, the home of a spider long gone. It was not a malevolent force. It was just a memory of a life that had ended, left to decay. It wasn't their sorrow, but its immense, lonely presence had filled their world. Kale, in a flash of inspiration, crawled towards it. He did not destroy it. Instead, he began to spin, connecting his new vibrant threads to the old dead ones. Silva joined him, her strong silk anchoring the new structure. Pip wove her light, shimmering patterns into the dark, dusty mass. They did not erase the old web, they wove their lives around it, incorporating its sadness and its history into their own. The shadow in the corner did not vanish, but it did change. It was no longer a looming threat, but a complex tapestry of old and new, of memory and life. Their sunlit world was smaller now, but it was also deeper, and it was entirely their own. The Empty Fly. Silva was the heart of their trio, the steady anchor, but sometimes the heart grows heavy. A deep, inexplicable weariness settles over her, a feeling of profound emptiness that no juicy fly could fill. She would sit in the center of their beautiful, intricate web and feel nothing. The silk felt like ash in her spinnerets. The patterns felt meaningless. She was a ghost in her own home. Kale and Pip didn't really know what to do. They brought her the plumpest flies, but she left them to rot. They spun her favorite patterns, but she rarely looked. Her silence was a void that threatened to suck all the light from their little world. One day, a large, iridescent blue fly, clumsy and loud, blundered into their web. It was a prize catch, but as Kale and Pip rushed to subdue it, they saw Silva slowly approach. She didn't bite it. She simply looked at it, her multifaceted eyes empty. Then, with a gentle flip of her leg, she cut the threads holding it. The fly, buzzing in confused gratitude, flew away. "Why?" Kale cried, a mix of anger and fear. "We needed that." Silva didn't answer. She just started to spin. Not a web for catching, but a single, perfect circle. It was a web with no purpose, no function, just a beautiful, hollow shape hanging in the air, an act of pure, quiet surrender. Pip, understanding, joined her. She didn't try to fill the circle, but instead wove tiny, intricate spirals, which led towards its empty center, like questions with no answers. Kale watched his frantic energy stilling. He saw that Silva wasn't destroying their home. She was showing them the shape of her emptiness. He began to spin, not to fill the void, but to frame it, weaving strong, supportive lines around the circle, giving it a place to be without trying to change it. The empty circle hung in their web for some time. It was a reminder of the silence, of the absence, but in accepting it, in weaving their lives around it, the emptiness slowly lost its power. One morning, a tiny dewdrop formed in the very center of the circle, catching the sun. It was small and fragile, but it was there. Silva looked at it for a long time, and for the first time in weeks, a flicker of something other than nothing crossed her face. It wasn't joy, not yet, but it was a start. The day the rain came. Pip loved the world. She saw the poetry in a falling leaf, and the music in a creaking floorboard. But she also felt its weight with a crushing intensity. A dead moth in her web wasn't just a meal, it was a tragedy. A whole life snuffed out in an instant. The loneliness of a single-stranded fly was a sorrow she would carry for days. Her small heart was a vessel for all the world's quiet griefs. One afternoon, the sky turned gray, and a gentle rain began to fall. For most spiders, rain is a catastrophe, but Pip was mesmerized. She watched the drops hit the windowsill, each one creating tiny, liquid explosions. "They're so sad," she whispered to Silva and Kyle, who were hurriedly reinforcing their web against the downpour. "They fall all that way, just to shatter." The rain grew heavier, and a great torrent of water began to stream down the window, washing over their web. It was a flood. Kale swore, and Silva held on with a grim determination. But Pip simply let go. She spread her legs and allowed the current to sweep her away, a tiny speck in a river of despair. She was not afraid. She felt she was finally joining the sadness she had always felt. She tumbled down the slick wood, past startled ants and drowned worms, until she was washed into a small, muddy puddle. She was cold, lost, and utterly alone. But as she clung to a floating twig, she saw something. In the muddy water, reflected as a distorted, wobbling way, was the sky. And above the gray clouds, she could see a hint of blue. The sun was still there. The world wasn't just sadness, it was also a space for the sun to return. A long, sticky thread dropped down from the ledge above. Silva and Kale had followed her. "You can't just go floating off with the world's grief," Kale scolded. But his voice was thick with relief. Pip was slowly pulled back up. She was soaked and shivering, but her eyes held a new understanding. She felt the sorrow of the rain, but she no longer felt crushed by it. She began to spin a new web, not in the corner, but in a spot where she could both see the falling rain and the promise of the sky. Her threads were still fine, but they seemed to shine with a resilient light, a testament to a heart that learned to hold both the rain and the hope for the sun. When the threads fray. Their friendship was a web of 3, each thread vital to its strength. But the threads over time can fray. Pip the dreamer began to wander. She would spin small, experimental webs far from the main structure, lost her in her own tiny worlds of silk and light. Kale, the artist, became obsessed with a single, impossibly complex design, ignoring his friends in a pursuit of perfection. Silva, the anchor, felt herself being pulled in 2 directions, her foundation weakening as her friends drifted away. The space between them grew. The silence was no longer comfortable, but heavy with unspoken things. They were a triangle, with its points pulling apart, each center growing thin and fragile. They could see each other, but they felt miles apart. each trapped in their own separate corner of the vast, dusty sill. The breaking point came when a strong draft blew through the room. It was a wind they could have easily weathered together, but their divided web tore with a sickening rip. Pip's corner was torn away, and she went with it, swinging helplessly. Kale's masterpiece collapsed in on itself, trapping him in a tangle of his own ambition. Silva clung to the main beam, hung, alone, watching her world fall apart. It was Kale who acted first. He cut himself free from his ruined creation and scrambled towards Pip, spinning a frantic rescue line. Silva, seeing his movement, found her purpose again. She spun a bridge, a strong, wide swath of silk, connecting her beam to Kale's path. Together they pulled Pip back to the central beam. They huddled together, 3 small, shaken spiders, in the ruins of their home. Their webs were gone, their patterns destroyed, but they were touching. Their legs were intertwined, their bodies pressed close. "My threads were too thin," Pip whispered. "My world is too small." "My patterns had no heart," Kale admitted. "And I held on too tight to the wrong things," Silva said. They didn't have the energy to build a grand web again. Instead, they simply wove their threads together, a messy, tangled, beautiful knot of 3. It wasn't a home for catching flies, but a shelter for holding on. They had lost their perfect structure, but in the chaos, they had found each other again. The knot they had made, in the heart of a broken web, was the strongest thing they had ever built. The end.